Hello and welcome to Woke Watch, an ongoing series of videos where I find woke content from across the internet and together we can dissect it to expose the ideology for the bullshit it really is. And I've said many times, in order to be woke, one must, if not be a victim, at least play the part of a victim. And a great way to do this is to view everything through the lenses of race, gender ideology, or both, in particular when looking at historical events and applying modern values and standards. And I think it's actually part of game theory. Being woke is being the victim, someone needing rescuing. And once you've painted yourself as enough of a victim, you can then switch to being a persecutor, to being the aggressor. In a TA, this is known as the drama triangle. TA, I mean transactional analysis, not territorial army. Because in a therapy session, being able to strip an assault rifle, yes, it's useful but not necessary, and in the middle of a firefight, you don't need someone sat next to you to help you unpack your emotions. So I'll begin with looking at race through the eyes of the woke, and as a white guy, I've got to be really bloody careful how I word this. But over the last few years, the worshippers at the Church of the Eternally Offended have told us these things are part of white supremacy. Mathematics, basic spelling and grammar, the use of a knife and fork, milk, ice cream, music theory, the cosmos and chess. And that list is much longer, but now there's a new one. You are a white supremacist if you address people with the term, good morning.
You off of it, so nobody would think about what it really originated from. It was really a mockery towards black slaves and them making fun of what they did to their people when someone was hung, killed, or sold off to a different plantation. So that was their way of being funny. Did you have a good morning? Did you have a good cry about that person's death? Did you have a good cry about your daughter being taken away from you and sold off somewhere else? Did you have a good cry of your brother being hung yesterday? That was their way of being funny. Good morning, everyone.
First up, let me say, I believe that racism in all its forms is utterly vile. However, I can categorically state there is no link between the phrase good morning and the slave trade. The issue appears to be that that lady, as charming as she may be, is utterly fucking illiterate, as demonstrated by her use of the word tooken. Tooken isn't a word, it's taken or took. And for me, it's best not to give a lecture on the history of the English language if you can't use basic fucking English. The word morning evolved from an ancient English word morwen, which went on to be two words. It became morrow and then tomorrow, meaning the following day, and morning, the beginning of this day, because English is a bloody strange language. And it took me less than 30 seconds to Google that. Other search engines are available, although no one uses them. What our friend appears to have done is confuse the word morning, M-O-R-N-I-N-G, with morning, M-O-U-R-I-N-G, which is odd because she's American, and Americans usually drop letters from the English language. Thus, it appears our learned friend does not know the difference between the two words. Not knowing that morning, meaning part of the day, is not the same for experiencing grief and loss. But not only that, her argument falls apart even more because, well, I greet other white people with good morning. I'm assuming white people have done so for centuries. If I wish anyone, regardless of their skin colour, a good morning, I'm saying, I hope you are having a good morning, not, ha, some of your family are dead. So her woke story is a fantasy, a fabrication, and I don't know if she came up with that herself or someone else has told it to her. But what purpose does it serve? Well, it's twofold. First of all, it's the victimhood thing. It's everything's systemic, everything's oppressive. If even the term good morning is in itself racist, then how can she be blamed for any of her own shortcomings? Secondly, though, I think is less pleasant, and that is, I believe it allows her to justify her own racism, outrage for something that happened decades before she was born, which she can use to fuel her own hatred towards white people. Now, I don't know that I'm assuming it. But let's touch on racism again. You see, a few moments ago, I said that racism is vile in all its forms, and it is. But if we're honest, everyone has at least a tiny piece of racism. It's conditioned into us. And, for example, if you were on the train, and you could either sit next to a vicar, a black vicar, guy sat there with his dog collar, his Bible on his lap, nodding and smiling, or you could sit next to a brown-skinned Muslim chap in full Islamic gear, staring wild-eyed at his Quran with a ticking backpack. Who are you sitting next to? Now, it may be the guy we think is a vicar is an escaped mental patient who's murdered a priest and stolen his clothing, whereas the Islamic chap is actually a clockmaker who's forgotten his glasses. I'm not saying that everyone is racist. I'm saying that all of us have our biases, and they may not be conscious to us. And some of the worst offenders are woke, upper middle class, white allies. The people who insist they're not racist at all, but also in the same breath will say they need to speak on behalf of people of colour. Why are you insinuating anyone who isn't white isn't clever enough to put together their own argument? And the best example I saw of this was a few years ago. I was watching a protest. I wasn't taking part. I was openly laughing at them. But there was a black woman with a microphone using some very cherry-picked statistics, because being woke means being very careful how you present your arguments. And a white guy standing next to her took the megaphone off her and shouted, "Black Lives Matter." Completely oblivious that he just silenced a black woman. In order to be a woke victim, you will need to exaggerate, or like I said, cherry pick, or just straight up invent, like saying that the phrase good morning is rooted in white supremacy. Once you've got all that, then you can go on the attack. Now, this clip coming up, bear in mind, this woman recorded herself, probably watched it back, posted it on the internet and set it so it could be shared, because that's how I came to have it.
Dear white women, listen. You're only playing this if you value your life, is to shut the fuck up. Listen exclusively to black, brown, and indigenous women, femmes, and non-men.
I can't imagine having that much hatred and feeling justified having that much hatred based on nothing other than a person's skin colour. But I'm about to try and point out some hypocrisy. That lady said that white women need to listen to black, brown, and indigenous women. And she's American. Are there no Chinese, Japanese, or Korean women, or people of that lineage, people who rightly or wrongly we would have called yellow, living in the USA? And if so, why don't white women have to listen to them? When it comes to race through the eyes of the woke, they never mention Asians. And bear in mind that when the Chinese first moved to America, they were treated like shit, and the same thing applied under the control of the British Empire. Yet, in the modern world, Asians massively outperform every other race in the Western world, be it in education, academia, career, whatever. It simply doesn't fit the narrative that all minorities must inherently be oppressed. If it doesn't fit the woke narrative, then just leave it out. It doesn't help the crusade. They wouldn't use the term crusade because, again, that's probably rooted in white supremacy. So when we hear the woke warriors saying that their cause is about love and inclusivity, we know it isn't. It's about hatred and division, in particular hating anyone that doesn't 100% go along with the narrative. So we began with race, let's finish with the other big woke topic, gender ideology.
Looks like he's having a nice feast.
She, her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all good.
But it was not all good.
I use she, her pronouns. I'm not sir. Yeah, like it's like a knife in the heart. I did specifically ask ahead of time not to be called sir. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Okay. The Sweetwater starts at okay. Not.
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
It's just always like a knife. It always hurts every single time. I was wondering if there's a manager I could talk to about something that happened. Yeah, I was called sir.
Oh, okay.
It just really sucks every time it happens.
Sorry about that.
I don't need to be called ma'am. I just need to not be called sir, you know? Thank you. Did you call me sir? Hey, I just want to tell you that the person who gave me this called me sir.
What?
Called me sir.
Oh.
It's just like, it kind of just hurts a lot to get called sir.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. No, yeah. Thank you. I'm not a sir. Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I get called sir. I feel like I need to tell him. I need to tell him that hurt. It hurts more though, and it's not intentional because it means like this is sir to him. I know you didn't mean it, but I'm not a sir.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I know you didn't mean it. It's just, it hurts. I know when people clock me, it's fine, but like it does kind of hurt. Thank you. I'm not sir.
Oh, sorry.
Not sir. Not sir. But the guy who dropped the food off, he called me sir twice in a row.
Okay. I'll let him know that, and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's getting dark, so I'll have to be quick. But for context, that trans woman is apparently a food blogger. Even if that is the case, and I doubt it, it's still, to me, fairly obnoxious going to a restaurant and subjecting all the other diners to you setting up your tripod and ring light and then talking loudly about your dining experience. However, there is a pattern, and that video goes on for another few minutes, and it's always the same. The trans woman sits down, is misgendered, which he isn't because he's a man in a crop top, says it's okay, you didn't know, and then calls over the manager. At the start of this video, I mentioned the drama triangle from transactional analysis, and there we saw the switch between victim and persecutor almost instantaneously. The trans woman is sat there, and he goes, oh, I'm not sir, I'm a she, her. You don't have to call me ma'am, just not sir. Then, get me the fucking manager. And the implication is, we can all see, that person there just misgendered me. Make their life hell. Imagine if the waiter had actually said, good morning, sir. Our friend from the first clip, she would have burst into the restaurant and accused him of being a paid up member of the KKK. And throughout the trans woman's clips, he constantly says that being misgendered is like being stabbed in the chest. Is it, mate? Is it really? Because if I meet you in person, I will give you a choice. I can either misgender you or I can knife you. Which one is really going to hurt more? Just to be clear to YouTube's algorithm, I was not actually threatening violence, I was using irony to prove a point. And I'm not saying that racism and transphobia don't exist. What I am saying is that the woke blow them up to be much bigger than they actually are, because it's within their interest to keep these things going. That's all their entire fucking identities are based on. Now, I need to be going, it's getting dark, and I think I've taken the wrong path. As ever, thanks for watching.